What is going on, guys? MMA Island team, we got the fight picks and we got the Halloween card. Anderson Silva's farewell also. Sean Strickland taking on Jack Marshman is the fight we are talking about. And I think first thing you got to mention about Jack Marshman is coming from Wales. Also had a cracker of a fight. I'm killing it with the Robert Whittaker references. But I had a cracker of a fight with John Phillips, also from Wales as well. Two very powerful strikers coming from Wales. And those two at least. And then you're talking about Sean Strickland. Pretty interesting deal here because you look at least the people. This is one thing that I think is pretty telling for me in this one, and I'll give it away right here. Sean Strickland, his 3 losses come to Santiago Ponzinibbio.
You don't have to be all fancy with it.
I know. I try my best, man. Kamaru Usman and Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. I always mess up on Santiago's name, but I'm going to try it again. But those are 3 very, very tough dudes in the division.
Yeah.
Losing to those 3, really don't put too much stock into it, because those are 3 guys that are absolute killers. So, and then you're talking about Jack Marshman. Looking at his last 4 fights, man. So you got getting choked out by Antonio Carlos Jr., losing to Carl Robertson, split decision win over John Phillips, and then getting choked out by Edmund Shabazian. Really kind of have to put some stock into those as well. Getting close, I guess, because John Phillips, this is what it's funny, we were mentioning this before, is that Zach was saying that John Phillips might be getting cut, and I was saying, hey, John Phillips has got hands, but he just doesn't have a ground game. And it's kind of clear that he did that. That's the way it is. I really like Jack Marshman. I really like John Phillips just because of that fight. I don't know why. It just sits in my memory. I don't know why, but I love it. I love that fight. So I don't know, man. I got to go with Strickland on this one. I think just looking at what we've seen out of Marshman and what we've seen out of Strickland, really vulnerability is more evident with Marshman rather than with Strickland, because you're looking at Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, one of the greatest true kickboxers in the division, and then Kamaru Usman, who's just going to grind everybody to decision. Hey, but maybe Hamzat can do something about that.
Oh, he can't.
Maybe Leon can do something about that.
No, he can't. Kamaru already beat Leon.
Yeah, that's true. But who knows, man? So, and maybe we get to see
everyone. He's not going to lose.
Maybe we get to see Ponzinibbio to fight again sometime soon, hopefully.
He said he's going to return by the end of the year. That's what he said.
Let's see it. I want to see it. But
me too.
Point is, man, I think I'm going to go with Strickland on this one. I think having those hands that he's got, and being able to go the distance as well. We've seen him have the knockout win over Nordine Taleb. Obviously, Nordine Taleb, I think everybody remembers was it Muslim Salikov or was it Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos?
It was Salikov.
Salikov absolutely blasted him. And that's really what sits in my mind every time I see Taleb's face. But yeah, I just looking at where these guys are vulnerable, who they've lost to, who they beat, really got to go with Strickland on this one. Obviously, Marshman's got power, but I think when you're matching up against Strickland, a guy who doesn't really hasn't lost via KO outside of anybody from Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, I really don't picture Marshman coming out with the spinning wheel kick. So I'll have to go with Strickland on this one. I think it's a pretty clear pick for me. So I'll pass it on to Zach.
I agree. This is a clear pick. I'm also going Sean Strickland. But Jack Marshman, he's an interesting case. Very interesting guy. You know, he was actually a Welsh paratrooper before making the switch to MMA. And it's funny you bring up John Phillips, because he and John Phillips, I like to say that Jack Marshman is John Phillips if he lost a little bit of weight, because they are pretty much the exact same fighter. Just Phillips has a couple pounds on him. You know, they are Welsh heavy-handed middleweights who have zero ground game. And if you get them to the ground, it is like you grab a fish out of water. They are going to die. It's just not going to go well. And Sean Strickland, yes, he's had a long layoff, and I know I said I don't like to see that, but he has been very impressive in his UFC debut so far, and also something that you really like to see, 64% striking defense. If you can defend the shots that Jack Marshman is throwing at you, then Jack Marshman doesn't really have a chance. Jack Marshman's cardio is also not great. He tends to gas out pretty hard. Strickland doesn't, to the same level at least. He has better striking technique, and he can bring this fight to the ground. And that's what I expect him to do. His coaches, I mean, if I know that Jack Marshman has a weakness to the ground, then his coaches know as well. And because his coaches are going to say, take this guy down, you win the fight. And he is going to take this guy down and he is going to win the fight because Jack Marshman does not have that much to offer him. And Sean Strickland can defend what Jack Marshman offers. He can defend those heavy-handed strikes because also, if you look at Jack Marshman, he doesn't have the greatest technique. He kind of just throws heat, tries to knock you out. Strickland has the technique. Marshman doesn't. This is an easy pick. Sean Strickland all the way. Parlay piece, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've seen that wrestling game at a Strickland. That's one thing that I failed to mention as well. And being technical with it, man, he's got the striking defense and having that takedown game. I think you got to go with Strickland on this one. As you mentioned, parlay piece. We were bringing the parlay pieces back last week, so I'll talk about it here as well. Going with Strickland on this one, man. Unanimous decisions for us just keep flowing, and it won't continue. And I predict it doesn't continue in the next one. So you'll have to find out. But make sure you guys are just letting us know what you guys think, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, check out the other Fight Pick videos.